And I believe I just hit go live. So if someone hasn't, there we are. There we have it. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Virtual Fridays Dire Literary Series. And our feature tonight is Mr. Ryan Ridge from Louisville, Kentucky. And let me tell you a little bit about Ryan. If I can share the screen a bit. Let's see what we got going on here. This is my fun way to introduce guests by using their own words. So Ryan is he was born and raised in Kentucky. He's the author of 4 chapbooks and a novella, American Homes, and his 5th book, New Bad News. And I love the time machine stuff. Will be published in the spring of 2020 because, like, if I was reading this back in February, there'd be no COVID and it'd be a nice time machine moment, but I'm not. So his book is out and it's available at all of your favorite bookstores and online. Ryan's favorite indie bookstore is Carmichael's in Louisville, Kentucky. And you can pick up his book or any book that you would like by a special order there online. He's got some great credits. Go to his website, which is ryanridge.com, which you can see up here, my little arrow. And without any further ado, Ryan is going to read for us and we'll follow with a Q&A. So Ryan, you are up.
Thanks so much, Timothy. Hello, everybody. It's great to be here, part of the Dire reading series. I love the name. I'm going to read 3 short pieces, and some are very short. This first one's called The Big H. Stop me if you've heard this one before, Playboy says. A priest, a rabbi, a Buddhist monk, and Donald Trump walk into a bar. Trump, says Bill, he doesn't drink. Besides, another punchline. He's president. He's sitting shirtless in front of the motel mirror in chinos and a shoulder holster. His dyed hair damp from the shower. Hair looks good black, Bill says to the mirror, but Playboy can't tell if he's talking about black hair in general or if he's referring to his own. Playboy asks Bill if he perhaps left a pronoun out of the previous sentence, and Bill extends 3 fingers, says, read between the lines. All right, Playboy says, you look like a top. Bill says nothing. Bill says scissors. Bill says, did you find the scissors? Playboy, Bill says, any luck with the scissors, any? No, Playboy says, I'll use your pocket knife. It isn't a pocket knife, Bill says, it's a Swiss Army. Cool story, bro, Playboy says. He opens the blade and presses his thumb down stupidly. Sharp, he says. Bill shrugs, says, that's the point. Mind if I smoke? I prefer a barber who smokes. Playboy lights the lucky, asks Bill how he wants it. No homo, Bill says. Playboy reminds Bill that he, Playboy, bats for the other team and it's the 21st century and that maybe Bill should learn to be more innovative concerning his hatreds. Bill says nothing. Bill says, take a little off the sides and front and a lot off the back. Bill says, whatever you do, don't do a mullet. Bill says, no mullets tonight, okay? I'm looking to meet a nice piece at the casino tonight, so don't get hilarious here. Keep it cool. I'm Coltrane, Playboy says. As the cutting commences, but it's more like sawing. Eventually, a long black lock of Bill's hair comes loose and falls to the floor. Jesus, Bill says. You all right, Playboy asks. I'm fine, but take it easy, Bill says. I need a haircut, not a scalping. Playboy apologizes. Sit back, relax. Let the Old Navy do what it does best. Swiss Army, Bill says. Old Navy's something else. A store. Playboy tongues his cigarette over to the corner of his mouth and lets it hang there so he can cut and smoke at the same time. Smoking without appendages. It's an old trick Playboy picked up in the club, back when he was the bass player in a Judas Priest tribute band. Jesus, Bill says. Jesus H. Christ. You all right there, William? I'm fine, Bill says. I was just thinking about Jesus. After Malibu, you're considering a career change? Not at all, Bill says. I was thinking about the name, Jesus H. Christ. What does the H stand for? Harold? Playboy wagers? disciples call him Harry, maybe, like the prince. That, Bill says, does not track. It's probably Hank, Playboy says. Hank's the perfect name for gods and dogs. Nah, Bill says. Playboy saws off another lock. He's working the back by Bill's neck, and he's leaving him with a little rat tail. Do you have any theories as to the H? Holy is my best guess, Bill says. And holy shit, that hurt. My bad, Playboy says. Jesus, holy Christ, Bill says. It's stupid enough to be true. The big mystery is solved. Playboy stops cutting, steps aside, and admires the dark mound of hair on the ground. How's it look? Doing fine, Bill says. Maybe a little more off the back, though. The back is sort of, I don't know. You don't dig the rat tail? No, says Bill. I do not. Personally, Playboy says, I think the ladies will love it. It's ironic nouveau. Now you're speaking my language, Bill says. Playboy doesn't respond. Instead, he continues cutting and now pausing to ash his square onto the pile of hair. Are you a believer, Bill says out of the blue. Playboy considers it. Do I believe in Jesus H. Christ? Bingo, says Bill. Jesus or God or Buddha or Zeus or whatever the hell. You believe any of it? I don't know, Playboy says, stamping out a cigarette. I don't think about it much. I guess if there's a God, I'd call it a surprise ending. How about you? The only thing I believe in is avoiding women with spider tattoos, Bill says and laughs. Playboy laughs too, even though he's not sure if or why it's funny. I thought that spiders are good luck, Playboy says, and as he says it, a little spider crawls across the motel mirror. Look, see that? That's called synchronicity right there. Bill reaches out and smashes the spider with his thumb. You shouldn't have done that, Playboy said. That's bad karma. Only if you're a superstitious cocksucker, Bill says. A sudden panic surges through Playboy's arm, and he drops the knife. This feeling is more of an opinion. It's either heart attack or fear. He steps back from Bill and takes an inventory of the room. It's an orgy of White Claws, High Life cans, and Thai takeout boxes. Nothing strange. Nothing to see or worry about. Playboy strikes another lucky strike, and soon enough he's at the window, peering through the plastic blinds. The parking lot is empty, and the empty spaces look to him like the framework for something he can't quite pinpoint. Agnosticism, maybe. He gets the feeling that something's missing. He says to Bill, hey, buddy, where's the backpack? You know, the one we're not supposed to let out of our sights, like ever? Bill stares at himself in the mirror and runs his gnarled fingers through his new hairdo. Eventually he says, the trunk? The backpack is in the trunk? Shit, man, I don't know. The last time Bill didn't know shit was a week ago outside Barstow when Playboy asked him if the sheriff's deputy was dead. I don't know, he said. Probably. I shot him. Now Playboy is feeling a twinge of deja vu. There's a knock at the door, followed by another. Bill flashes his Beretta and says, you expecting anyone? Then Playboy picks up the pocket knife and says, no one I know. This next one is very short. I thought I'd read it because someone just mentioned acid. It's called On Acid. One sentence long. I glance at our guru's finger as he's pointing at the moon. But then I realize it's his middle finger pointed at a riot cop, and it's the middle of the afternoon. And this last one is called A Novel Idea. The boy wanted to write flash fiction. It was his calling. He told his dad much one December afternoon in the den upon returning home from boarding school for the break. Flash fiction, his dad said, lowering the newest New Yorker from his face as his rose-tinted monocle dropped in disgust. The fireplace hissed. Isn't that what those degenerates on the internet write? No, they won't do. No son of mine is going to produce small works destined for obscurity. Novels. That's the idea. It's a novel idea. Novels longer than your hair, son. Something to make your publisher swoon. Now get to your room and don't come out till you've written a blockbuster. The boy went to his room and he didn't come out. For many years, he didn't come out. Once emerged, the boy was no longer a boy, but still not quite a man. He had hair to his knees, but none on his chest. He was 27. The world had changed. The boarding school had been boarded up. Dad was dead and gone. And the novel was not bad. It was not good. It was not bad. It was like a lot of novels. They loved it in New York. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks again, Timothy.
I'm gonna unmute everybody. Give me some love.
That's great.
All right,
Round of
folks.
applause.
I'm gonna now mute everybody, all except Ryan. Ryan's gonna unmute himself because we got some questions for you. And the first question we had was from Mr. DeWitt Henry. He said, hello, having read and loved the new bad news, he's very much about wit. Do you find witty readers in short supply, and do you hope to wise up the dim?
Witty readers in short supply. I hope, I think, I know at least if I find no shortage of witty writers and readers, especially these days. You know, there's oh wow, you know, I'm trying to think what I just read recently. You know, from up in your area, the late great James Tate was full of those one-liners. You know, every line by him is kind of like a chuckle or a little dagger turned to the heart. A lot of stand-up comedians too do good work these days, do good line work, and a lot of that stuff could track. I think if you put it into stanzas, some of that stuff's gonna work pretty well as poems. So, yeah, I find kind of influence everywhere, and I think that there's a lot of fantastic stuff going on.
Well, you put a lot of real life characters in your book, like Jackson Brown, for example, and you know, that's something that I do as well, and I find I do that because I'm just greatly amused by having done so. So, are you amused by the world by doing this, or do you try to amuse the world?
Yeah, I think I'm in the former category along with you, Timothy, where it is quite amusing to put folks in and see what happens with it. I had in that section, there's also Babe Ruth's in there, and a lot of other residents. That whole section set in Echo Park, California, which is a suburb of, well, not even a suburb, just an area in Los Angeles right next to Silver Lake. So it has Jackson Brown. Many famous folks lived in there over the years. I think Ayn Rand had a house there. I did not put her in the book, though. Certain figures I can't stomach writing about even.
Well, now that you're in Salt Lake City, are you going to put some famous Salt Lake City folks in some of your new writing? And what's it like being a Southerner in Salt Lake City?
It's a fantastic place to be. After a decade in Los Angeles, then I was home in Louisville for 2 years in between. You know, I think it's great for a writer to feel like an outsider. That can be a good place. And being in the heart of church country, it's a fascinating place to live and be. And I find Salt Lake City very livable. It's beautiful. The mountains are here. There's a decent literary community here. A lot of good writers writing around. So I do find it. You know, it gets the creative spark.
Well, there's a question about your background, which we spoke of earlier. It's part of the cover of your book, New Bad News, but also on the cover of that book is a great blurb by Jonathan Latham. How do you get someone like Jonathan Latham to blurb the book? And I know that if that was me. I'd put his blurb as the background. I'd be so excited.
I just got lucky with that one. The book was one of those books. It's a book about failure largely. And it's a book that I worked on for many years. I think it got rejected 45 times before Saraband finally picked it up on the 40. It got rejected 44 times. Saraband picked it up on the 44th time. But along the way, I had a little luck, and it won the Italo Calvino contest in fabulous fiction. And Jonathan Lethem happened to be the judge of that. So, I kind of doubled back to him when the book got picked up. I said, and he said, sure. It turns out he's a really nice guy. Not only is he insanely talented, he's a very nice guy. So that was kind of nice. That gave me a little juice to keep sending it out. And I think it still got rejected maybe 20, 30 times after that.
Do you have a favorite story from your book or a go-to? In other words, there are certain stories in books that are better read out loud and they become a go-to, but they may or may not be your favorite. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, either or both of those?
Sure. I think that the first section of the book, Echo Park, is my favorite to read from. It's a book in 5 sections, and that particular sections is comprised of like 30 vignettes with a kind of a build up to form one story. So that's kind of nice. I can jump around in that one. But I've done a lot of readings from the book, and I've mainly stuck around in that particular section. So I thought I'd branch out tonight, and I read from a section called, ironically titled, American Literature. And those 3 pieces were from that particular section. And it's mainly Flash stuff. So I was trying something new tonight. Yeah.
Is there anyone new that we should be reading, and any favorite writers of aphorisms? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Right now, a writer that I love from my hometown is Lisa Cross Smith, and that's her book. Doesn't really show up. So We Can Glow is her latest collection of short stories. I think she's got another novel coming out soon. She's excellent. Writers of aphoristic prose, I'm trying to think. There's a book that came out on Grey Wolf a couple years ago. It's called like 99 Mini Arguments, and I'm blanking on her name. It's fantastic, and I'll think of it as soon in a second. It's like 99 Mini Arguments. They're all aphorisms. Yeah, I see DeWitt said Joy Williams. No, I love Joy Williams. 99 Stories in Which God Appears is another one. Sarah Manguso, I think, is the person I was thinking of. Maybe it's 101 Mini Arguments, all aphorisms. There's a lot of poets that do great line work. I'm trying to think, who was I reading the other day, and it's blank, and I'm useless right now with this question. I should have written down influences.
Well, the key is, so many times in these interviews when we're talking to our features, they're always reading, and they're always like reading something currently, and it's really something that writers should definitely take within their hearts. So we got another question from Jason. Who influenced you, and what was the muse that made you write your last book? And 30 rejections, how the hell do you handle that?
Well, I'll start with the last part, and I'll double back. With all the rejections, I thought at this point I'm pretty good, I think, gauge of my own work. And I know that I've published worse books, as in all of the previous books I've published, I think are worse than this one. So I think, well, I'm just hang in there and eventually get picked up, and it did. So now in terms of the other part of that question was influence, what influenced me to write that particular piece. The Big H, I was reading a lot of the literary editor Gordon Lish, his short prose, and his stuff's kind of it's kind of voicey, and it repeats a lot. And I think that the Big H piece, although it doesn't really, maybe if you held them next to a piece by Lish, it wouldn't track like Lish at all. But I think it's sonic quality in the way that the says kind of punctuates the piece. There's a similar kind of percussiveness. Now that last piece that I read, though, the novel idea, I think that just comes from just writing kind of flash fiction and telling folks that you write that and you get that pitying kind of look. Oh, I'm sorry.
Were you always a flash fiction writer, or did you get the bug? Because I know writing flash fiction can become very addictive.
Yeah, I kind of got the bug. I started off writing longer stories, and I am working on a novel, but I kind of write like I write flash fiction line by line, and that's why it's taken me 5 years. I'll probably do one novel, maybe two. Because to do two novels probably take me 20 years, right? So yeah, I really enjoy doing it. It's something you can do. You can write a thing, have a draft of it in a day maybe, but I go back and I probably work on a piece of flash for a month, just one piece, unless it's like that second piece I read, which is one sentence long. I think that came out in one jokey burst.
Do you find it's a difficult adjustment? Because you're working on a novel now, according to your bio. But do you find it like difficult to go back and forth? Like, in the middle of a novel, can you sit down and write a piece of flash fiction, or is it difficult to move back and forth for you?
Well, I've always been a juggler of projects. In fact, that really helps me to keep working on projects if I have a couple things going. I either have to have a couple things going or I have nothing going. It's just I kind of just sit there and stare at a screen. So yeah, it's kind of liberating. It's also kind of how I got into writing the flash fiction to begin with, taking breaks from I was writing a novella at the time, American Homes. I started writing flash on the side then. So just juggling projects. I've written some projects with the great writer Mel Bosworth. I think he's read in your series a couple
Yeah, we
times.
had them. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've written a couple books together, and it's mainly flash stuff. So that really got me into the flash because we could go back and forth. He'd write a piece, I'd write a piece, and went back and forth for a couple books.
You know what? That's we had Mel a couple of years ago. I think he was in the middle of doing that with you, which is interesting. That's great that to be refreshed upon that. So, do you listen to music? What are you listening to now? And do you use music when you're writing?
Yeah, I love music. I listen to mainly instrumental stuff when I write, just because if I hear the lyrics, it'll come out, it kind of filter into the piece somehow, and I don't really want that. Lately, I've been playing bass in a band called the Snarling Yarns. So I haven't been playing long. I've been playing about a year, and so we got some shows coming up. So I'm mainly just listening to the songs. I'm learning that we're going to play at these gigs. We're playing these outdoor gigs at some arboretum outside. So listen to a lot of those songs, old blues tunes, and James McMurtry is excellent. Listen to a lot of him lately.
Did you always play the bass, or did you play other instruments before the bass?
No, I picked it up about a year ago, and I maybe played a little bit in my teens in some punk bands, but I tried to actually decide to learn it. I turned 40. I was like, all right, I'm going to do something useful at night other than drink beer.
All
I
right,
do like
you. All right, we have another question from the gang here. How do you let your life experience dictate on what project you're working? And when you're working on one project, because you said you were going to work on one, do you feel intuitively inspired to work on another one? And how do you keep the balance and stay on task? It's a great question.
Yeah. If I'm in a good groove, I'm sitting down and I'm doing it regularly. If I'm not in a good groove and I'm juggling projects, I'm kind of zigging and zagging back and forth between whatever thing has the most heat, whatever thing seems the easiest to do that particular day. Life experience, I gotta, I think I write from my experience, but I don't really, do add the details of my life. I've always shied away from including biography, but maybe I'll get comfortable with that someday.
All right, so the last question of the night is usually mine. So your piece on acid, is that the shortest piece you've ever worked on? And were you, in fact, on acid when you wrote it? And were you, in fact, writing 8 hours to come up with that sentence?
I think the drug that would make you write 8 hours to get a sentence would be more like a drug like Adderall. But no, I was not on acid. I haven't taken any acid maybe 20 years. But I can kind of dial it up still. That kind of feeling of that time lapse, real life time lapse feeling. But yeah, I wasn't on acid when I wrote it. I don't know if I could write anything on acid.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's Mr. Ryan Ridge. And we'll go through, this was actually, I was looking up something else here. Here's Ryan's book, New Bad News, which is the Amazon site. But, Carmichael's is a great indie bookstore, or please use your favorite indie bookstore to purchase New Bad News, plus any other book of your choice. And you can visit Ryan Ridge on ryanridge.com. And I'm going to unmute everyone again. And I'd like, special thanks. Thank you for coming out and reading for us and doing such a great job with our questions.
Great job. Great.
Thank you. Thank you, Timothy. And thanks, everybody.
And we're going to go off. For the folks watching on Facebook, thanks for watching. If you're watching and you ever want to be involved in our open mic without just seeing the feature, please join our Zoom broadcast and we do the open mic next. But thank you very much for tuning in on Facebook and for supporting Ryan Ridge and all the writers that you all support.